Hi, Andy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool that you're here, and we're starting actually in Saqqara. You see here the place is called Saqqara. It's actually a necropolis of ancient Egyptian pharaohs. This pyramid is about 4,000 years old, and it's one of the most important structures in Egypt. You see here some parts of the Death Temple, but the structure is amazingly great. We all know that these guys really know how to put stones on each other. As you see, it was during a time where not so many people were traveling, which was actually amazing. And what us today interests is actually deep down in the ground. So we are talking about Egyptian Fayence. It's a material which maybe a lot of people from you already saw in some museums, maybe also known from the last trip to Egypt. And it's a beautiful thing which is sort of ceramic, but we all would like to call it the mother of all glazes, actually. To come to that in a more technical part, we invited our guest today, Andreas Etter, and I think you can talk for yourself what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm majoring in geochemistry and geology, so Alex asked me for my geochemical background in finance, if I maybe had an idea how we actually could reproduce this, right? Because we did some let's call it research on making our own Egyptian fayence with just simple materials like the Egyptians had access to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, doesn't have that much to do with my studying actually, but I'll try to give some input. And he was especially interested in the chemical processes which take place in this self-glazing ceramics, because it's very special. In normal ceramics you just have a normal core which you then burn of clay or whatever, and then you apply some glazing powder or a paste, and then you burn it again and it gets glazed. And the thing with Egyptian fayence, with the what was the self-glazing version called?
Effleurance.
Yeah, exactly. The effleurance technique is that you actually just make...
Down here, there are the tiles. Exactly here. And you will see some pictures right away.
Right. Yeah. So the thing with the self-glazing Egyptian fayence is just make one mixture. So like your core or whatever, the shape you want the ceramics to have. And during one cycle of burning, it gets, these are the tiles, they harden and they self-glaze. So in just one burning process, you have the whole thing going.
The interesting part is that these tiles, about 40,000 tiles of them, got built in the southern tomb. It's actually down beyond the surface of the pyramid, or where the grave chamber is, and nobody could see it. It's just completely darkness, and a lot of tiles got lost. It's also really a big thing in research how they made it, and that's an interesting part, because the ancient Egyptians didn't have that kind of chemistry we have today. So we have an example here from Qom in Iran, which they do a pretty similar technique, which is also related to the fayence, but this technique is a little bit different, and maybe Andy can explain it more in detail.
The thing they are doing right now is they're actually making the clay body, so the shape you want your ceramics to have, and then they put it in a kind of cement, which has a completely different chemical structure from the clay body itself. and they cover them up completely, and then they burn it. And while doing so, as you can see here now, those clay pieces get like a rim of glazing actually. Like inside it's just a normal clay body, but the chemical reaction happens on the surface where like the clay body or silica body touches or comes in touch with the powder they covered them with.
As you see, in ancient Egypt, it was pretty common to have all sorts of objects made out of faience. You have religious things, but also a lot of ordinary products like this cup, and it was not only accessible for kings or queens or aristocratic societal layers, but it was also everywhere. Of course, more elaborate things were used by queens and kings and priests, but it was across the society in ancient Egypt where they used faience.
And like some archaeological research has also shown they extensively mined minerals like turquoise, which were used as a colorant for these, like this vibrant blue or vivid blue is most certainly from turquoise colorants. And while there still were some other objects which you see right now made out of this faience or with this faience technique, the majority of the material had to be like these 36,000 tiles inside the tomb. So there's like a huge discrepancy between artifacts you find, like for daily use or whatever, or arts and crafts like this one, in comparison with how extensively the turquoise was mined. So like research thinks that like a big part of this went into these tomb tiles. Yeah.
So the interesting part about these kind of ceramics is not only that they occurred solely in Egypt, but also before in Mesopotamia, where also was kind of a place where glazes originated from, and probably this traveled due to maybe also trade exchange to Egypt, and the Egyptians were highly skilled craft people, where this kind of ceramic was a main ceramic material they used till the era where they also created glasswork. So the interesting part also, what we are researching about, is also the fact that we came across a paper which argumented that these tiles were low fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is incredible, right?
Yeah. They report temperatures of like normally in the archaeological literature you find values between like 850 to 1000 degrees, which is like super high burning oven. And in that paper they describe methods to reproduce this faience and get like the same results, but with temperatures between 250 and 350 degrees. Reactions happening at temperatures as low as 200 degrees.
So literally you could make it in your own oven, right?
That's what we tried, right?
Exactly.
Well, we failed. Yeah, I mean, we weren't able to reproduce it by now, but I mean, we had like only some experiments going. But yeah, they report that you could actually do this on these low temperatures, and you actually get like a real glazing, like a vitrification of the surface of those clay bodies. Yeah. By chemical reactions, which like to form a glass at those temperatures, this would involve some chemical reaction which acts as a fluxer, because the core bodies of these clay statues, figures, whatever tiles, they were mainly composed of quartz, and quartz itself has a very high melting point of I think quartz is approximately as 1650 degrees Celsius or something like that. And of course, if you find quartz in rocks, like quartz-bearing rocks, or I mean rocks that are generally full of silicates, you find actually rocks with lower temperatures. I mean, we're talking like 800 to 900 degrees, for example, for low melting points of rocks.
But 250 is crazy, right?
250 is, yeah, it sounded absurd to me, but that's what we're trying to do right now. Yeah.
Exactly, and these guys came across that because they were researching if there were ovens where there was a possibility to high fire ceramics, but at Saqqara, the place where we saw before, where the step pyramid has its home, it's Diosa's step pyramid.
I mean, they found some, right?
They found some.
Like, not explaining to those, like, or not saying in relation to those 36,000 tiles,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
The interesting part would be now also to investigate other locations where faience was produced.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe to see if there was ovens where could reach high firing temperatures, or even not. I mean, the process of doing the faience is quite difficult, although it's really basic chemistry, right?
It's pretty basic components, yes, but still there's a lot going on, yeah. I mean, you have your clay body or whatever, like the material which you just want to retain shape, right? So you need some powder with clay minerals or whatever, and water, and then you can form it just like normal clay. But then the complicated part is, yeah, how actually to reach a reaction, like, it doesn't matter now for like 250 degrees or 800, 900 degrees, whatever, but I mean, if you just burn a ball of clay, you just get burnt clay, right?
Exactly.
It's no glazing, right?
That's what we got last time.
We got dry earth or dirt, I don't know, yeah, but yes. So the interesting point now would be to find like a clay mixture, and there is literature for that, and we try somewhat of this literature, but not at the burning temperatures they reported, but like at super low burning temperatures, which then didn't work. And the interesting part would be now to like constrain more of this chemical components to see like which ones do you need for like a basic setup to achieve glazing at all, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, I don't know how much into detail I should go here.
I mean, the idea basically is to recreate this material, right? And as I was talking with one of the head curators in the Basel Museum of Antiquity, he says it's a huge problem actually, because there is a huge black market with ancient faience. But the ancient faience is due to these public papers also. The recipes are actually pretty open, and also as I saw when I was traveling through Egypt, that there is a lot of craft still alive, and you could see it before also in Iran and Qom. They're still doing it, and the fact that it is quite a basic material and you don't know how old it can be, and it looks more or less the same, is pretty hard to distinguish which one is a fake and which one is an original.
And also to get back at like the lower firing temperatures, which some literature investigated, like the tiles found in this tomb, like by means of geochemical analysis, they actually figured out, or at least that's what they state, that I did not find like how should I call it, like crystal structures of, for example, quartz, which you would find at higher temperatures, right? Like the minerals change their structure, their lattice structure, with varying temperatures and pressures, and what they stated was that they did not find versions of it, structural versions, which they would like expect at higher than 900 degrees. So that's one of the points they state.
Yes.
So these tiles never reached a temperature of more than 900 degrees.
Yes.
Yeah. Because of the absence of some mineral structures, which they actually would expect. Yeah.
So I just came across another paper also, which they figured out about the deterioration process.
Deitrification.
It's not English.
Like degradation or erosion or.
Yeah, the erosion actually of the tiles, more or less like this. And this is another aspect of the material. Although the all ancient Egyptians, they actually ate or drank wine out of bowls made out of this material. And nowadays we also know that the Romans were had a lot of lead in their wine, you know. So about the toxicity of the material is still unclear, and if you could use it actually for vessels to eat and drink out of it.
Which I think, like from the chemical components we looked at, which are stated in these like various Fayence recreation reports or whatever, seems pretty fine.
Yeah.
Like, there is copper or whatever, but it's like, first of all, it's a small portion, it's just in the colorant, which is mostly like 1% of the whole mixture by weight. And also glazing is a very nice technique to actually retain everything inside, because glass is like super non-abrasive, right? Yeah.
I mean, further investigations need to be done, and also the output of the whole idea researching about this material is still quite open. Coming from the side of product design, I think there are a lot of things we can learn from the ancient Egyptians, because they already used it in their kind of material world for many things, and how to apply it in our contemporary context is something else. But I think, first of all, it's still a mystery for us how they made it.
Yeah. But I mean, it would be super great to figure out a way to make these fayence at like 250 degrees. Because it doesn't seem to be such a huge problem to do it at higher temperatures, but like lower temperatures would be super energy efficient, which
would be great.
That would be amazing,
Yeah.
But like, to me as a geologist, like 250 degrees, it really sounded absurd. And I don't know, I mean, can be true. We didn't manage, we didn't do enough work on that, but yeah, it would certainly be amazing.
Yeah.